Today we will be looking at citizens' participation in a shrinking civic space.
The civic space in Nigeria is believed to be shrinking by the day, with different government policies seemingly aimed at hindering the free participation and communication of its citizenry.
Esther, the bedrock of any democratic society is in how its civic space is managed. This is the space for citizens to organize, participate, and influence political and social structures freely. It also includes the space and freedom to speak up and air their views on governance. Freedom of expression is not a luxury in any democratic society. It is a right.
Adaobi, unfortunately, the reverse is the case in some African countries, and Nigeria, our dear country, is not left out. Going by reports, two incidents that quickly come to mind are NSAS protest and the Twitter ban. But we have also seen the government take steps to address those concerns.
But a civil society organization, Global Rights Nigeria, recently published a research document on shrinking civic space. They believe that the civic space is rapidly shrinking and are worried that the situation will impact the citizens negatively.
And joining us to discuss the shrinking civic space in Nigeria and how citizens can navigate and still hold on to their rights is the Executive Director of Global Rights, Abiodun Baiyewu. You're welcome to the program, Abiodun.
Good evening, and thank you for having me.
Okay, we'll start off with some of the questions we have for you. What is a layman's understanding of civic space? And how did this reflect in your recent research findings?
Well, the civic space will refer to citizens' ability to participate in their own governance, and the ability to publicly engage on issues that are of interest to them, and to have their opinions weigh in making decisions about how we live as a collective.
So from your report, you titled it Shrinking Civic Space. So now,
yeah.
Are you saying that the space is shrinking? What was it like before? And how did we get here?
So the report is titled We No Go Gree O, which is a cry which every Nigerian understands. We No Go Gree O means that, I will have my say, and it doesn't matter what you think as government, that we will have our say as Nigerians. As to the question on whether our civic space is shrinking, it definitely is shrinking. Now, it's not, you would say that, but then it's always been in this flux of shrinking and expanding. That it's exactly that it should expand, but then it has shrunk and expanded over and over again from pre-colonial era till today.
Okay, so what would you say that are the causes while the space is shrinking? Is it the government, and what is the government really doing to shrink the space?
There are many reasons why the space is shrinking. The report focuses largely on laws, on legal means through which government is repressing the space. So you've got laws, an attempt at laws to shrink the space. One of the laws, first of all, let's think about the laws that expand the space. Think about the laws in the Constitution, the fundamental human rights. Think about in chapter 2 of the Constitution, section 22 talks about the rights of the media. But then that you have government progressively trying to gag the media in news reportage, or at least to try to modify what the media puts out there. You've also got instances where government has gone and arrested people or punished people for saying how they feel or what they think in their minds. I can really think of the young man who was recently sentenced in Kano State for what was termed blasphemy in a Facebook post. But then there are in other ways that in which government has repressed that space or attempted to repress that space. For example, you had the hate speech law, the proposed hate speech bill, which was going to punish people for criticizing political office holders, for example, the president, members of the National Assembly. That you also have laws like KAMA, which is generally a good law. So you look at Part F, which deals with civil society and how government tries to repress civil society through the KAMA. How the KAMA now over empowers government, for example, to be able to take over the resources of an NGO, to change its trustees and things like that.
I recall when that bill came up in the National Assembly, so
yes,
many
there was
civil
the NGO
societies.
bill. So what they now did was they allowed it to die of natural causes, which was a good display of how citizens were able to say, no, that's not the society we want. But then they snuck it back in through the CAMA, the Companies and Allied Matters Act, to still pretty much try to control civil society. A government-controlled civil society is not civil society. So you've got laws like that. You've got more new NDC laws. You've got what happened with Twitter going on as well. And when you add all of that together, it makes it very difficult for citizens to speak. Now, a few years ago, you and I, today is the 8th anniversary of the abduction of the Chibok girls, by the way. And you would remember how critical we all were of government when this happened, that they were not living up to their expectations. They're not living up to Section 14.2 of the Constitution, 14.2b of the Constitution, which says the primary purpose of government is to ensure the security and welfare of all citizens. And 2c says that people should have a say in how governance is. But then after that, you and I will find it more difficult to call a radio station and call out the president for not being responsible for the people who were in the train bombings. We still don't know how many people were in the train bombings, but then there's a lot of restriction in people being able to call in, or even the media being able to report except that which governments have said, which makes the civic space really, really tight.
Would you also consider the social media bill as one of the tools or ways that the government is trying to shrink the space?
Yes, I wish I'd remembered to mention that. So the social media bill was another very wonderful example of the way in which they sought to shrink that space. But then Nigerians be Nigerians, and we really need to be proud of ourselves as a people. In spite of all that we go through, we still find a way to rally around to say, no, we do not agree with you, and that's what we did with the social media bill. We know they will try to sneak it in other ways, but then I think it's also important to remind those who are in government today that they will be on our side in a few months or in a few years' time. It's all a question of time.
Question of time. You did mention that the government is trying to stifle the media. But some days ago, we had the Minister of Information and Communication, Lai Mohammed. He said that Nigeria has one of the most vibrant and free press in the world. He also added that the government of the day in Nigeria is not a threat to the media. How would you react to that?
I'll say, uncle.
So you do not agree with
first
him?
To say that in world press freedoms, that I need to remember Nigeria's ranking, but I think we rank 124th or 125th out of 128. That's disgraceful. And if he thinks that is what free media should look like, then I think he needs to look around the world. The other part is Civicus, which monitors the civic space and looks at things like, press freedom, citizens' ability to engage in participatory governance, has also ranked us as consistently, for the past 4 years, ranked us as a repressed state. And so if our Minister of Information lives in an alternate universe, sometimes it's simple things that go with the matrix of truth that are simply really about numbers and facts should just help to realign him. We're not at a good place, and it will impact the way people think about him and people think about the government itself.
Nigeria being a repressed society or state. I also have in the studio my colleague Chidozie Ogbonnaya. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me, Adobe, and I've been enjoying the conversation. But I want to ask Abiodun here, why are they targeting, or the government now targeting the CSO? Is there something you are doing that is not right?
Well, first let's remember how this government came in. They came in riding on the wave of citizens demanding accountability of government for the security situation in the country. Now, they think the way to stay in power is to close that same door in a way in which people are unable to demand accountability of them. But that is not how society works. What that will do will breed distrust between the governed and the government itself, and that's what we see on a daily basis.
Don't you think that the fact that government lifted Twitter ban and also a bit hearkened to the voice of Nigerians crying over the NSAS protest was also a sign of tilting towards making the space better for Nigerians?
Let's be clear. I've said it time and again, way before they unban Twitter, that come January or February, they will unban Twitter because we have entered political season and they need Twitter.
So you think it's
So it is not about you. It's not that you were incensed about the ban, but that they needed the platform. And this is political season. They do need Twitter. And so they have banned it for their own good and not about you. So sorry about that. And when it comes to NSAS, no, they have not listened. That, yes, they have
they
not
disbanded.
listened. So they disbanded SARS, but then look through the process of the disbandment of SARS and look at the heart of what Nigerians were really crying for. Nigerians were crying to be treated with dignity, but from the people, the very same people who were meant to protect them. Every day, there's still issues of armed forces or security forces brutality on Nigerians. And the cost Nigerians have had to pay for the NSAS for daring to protest is still way too high for the kind of response that we have received.
Okay, thank you for that. You mentioned mistrust. The citizens do not have enough trust for the government. So it's time for the person listening to tell us if really they trust the government or not. How would you react to the conversation? And do you think the civic space in Nigeria is rapidly shrinking? And what should you do to see that your rights are protected? Esther, the phone numbers.
The phone numbers to call are 090 30,000 899, 090 30,000 899, 080 998 770, 080 998 770, and 0809 40,000 72, 0809 40,000 72.
Let's take this call. Hello. Okay, do well to call us back. 090 30,000 899, 080 998 770, and 0809 40,000 72. And for those watching via Facebook, you can also drop a few lines and we will take your messages. Okay. But while you are waiting for the calls, Esther has a question for you.
All right, so what are some of the factors responsible for the shrinking civic space in Nigeria, and how are civil society organizations affected? And I would like to tie this to the upcoming election, 2023 election. Do you think that this shrinking civic space has anything to do with voter apathy?
Okay, before you answer that, let me take this call. Hello.
Hello. Oh, good evening, Abiodun Baiyewu, Esther. Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Apostle Solai. So I want to comment. This is our minister of information. You know, I thank God for him. He has been defending his job, but he should know that that everything we say in this life we will give account of it. That day he said that Nigeria is safe in the hand of Buhari, whereby a lot of killing have been going on. The other day he said that the number of they have in Jonathan time and this time, that this time is lesser. But on daily basis, you see Benue State, you see Plateau, all those things. He used to talk to say that he's not in this country, Nigeria. He observing all this insecurity. The minister should remind me what he has been saying. May God help Nigeria. Thank you and God bless you. My name is Apostle from.
Thank you so much, Apostle, for your contribution. Please go ahead and answer.
Okay, so the causes of shrink I think that I've already answered one of them is a repressive government that seeks to be in total control and unwilling to relinquish any form of power for participatory governance. The other that not only Nigeria is not the only country that struggles with this issue. You find in a number of countries across the world are security issues that sometimes government securitizes every issue, puts it in the security bag so that you cannot comment on it. Yes, it's not thrown open, which is something Nigeria does. The government of Nigeria does a lot. Anything you say. So, for example, let's take the Twitter ban. So when we're taking up NCC on the Twitter ban to say that did you follow the due process, which would have been very democratic in banning Twitter in Nigeria using the NCC. NCC had come back to say it falls within national security issues.
And once it's security, there's a
once
caveat.
it's security, yes. But then what the government doesn't realize is once you use the word security, there's a psychology to people. Once you use the word security, what you're saying is the lack of security, the lack of peace, and that it triggers people into insecurity and acting in very unpeaceful manner. And so that a lot of the insecurity that's going on in the country as well, the lack of peace is also from the language and the body language of the government to say it's none of your business because it's a security issue. Security is everyone's business.
So the numbers again are 090 30,000 899, 080 and 0809 40,000 72.
Okay, going further, what are young people, how are they affected? Younger people, how are they affected? And then women especially, what are the challenges that this shrinking civic space will bring to their doorsteps?
Thank you for asking the question about young people. As you know, that Nigeria is largely made up of young people, and it's about their future. That you find a majority of Nigerians, 70% of Nigeria would fall within the youth population. Almost 70%, about 65% would fall within the youth population.
Could you just hold on, please? Okay. Thank you. Hello.
Hello. Good evening.
Good evening. Your name and where you're calling us from?
My name is Legend Olajide. I'm calling from Papi.
Let's hear you.
Yeah, my contribution is I want to be in support with what that lady in the studio said. They lifted up Twitter ban because they already saw that their political pursuit is already at hand and they will want to use it. So it's not because of the people. So whatever they are doing, they do it because of themselves. It's what will benefit them, they do. So this is my contribution for me now. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That means the government really did not think about you and I when they lifted the Twitter ban, according to you and the last caller. Please go ahead on how the shrinking space affects the young person.
So for the young people, this is really their country, and that the decisions made must reflect their aspirations for the kind of future that they want. So, for example, take NSAS. They spoke about the Nigeria that they want. They demonstrated the type of country that they would run if it was up to them. And then the government decided that it wasn't up to them. We need to get more young people as well in positions of authority. We need to hear their voices more, whether it's on radio, in the newspaper, on the streets, in parliament, where there really no young people in spite of the not too young to run bill. That even in the votes, that their votes should count, but then that they're countenanced. Now, Nigeria has the most number of, and I keep saying this because education is really pivotal to development. Nigeria has the most number of out-of-school children in the world, and that if people are not educated, they really can't contribute effectively to the civic space. So yes, young people are affected, and the securitization of all issues has also meant that young people are also gagged and restricted. The mediums they use, Twitter, Facebook, social media. There are numerous attempts to gag them through this medium, and for women as well. Once you securitize issue, you remove women. Voting is a very, very important way of participating in the civic space, and also that the increasing insecurity each electoral cycle is also keeping women out of it. Our electoral laws are also not women friendly, even our constitution in allowing the participation of women.
Let's take this. Hello.
Hello.
Yes, your name and where you're calling us from.
Yes, my name is Chima. I'm calling from Apo.
Chima, let's hear you.
Yes. I agree with the lady in the studio that they shrink in the media space, most especially in Nigeria. And the reasons why, and it's actually the government of Nigeria that is shrinking the media space. And they do that when they know that they have failed woefully in governance. They do that so that they want people not to be aware of their failure, or so that the few ones that are aware do not communicate with others. So, and they do this in many ways. They use all manner of things, excuses, security, or what have they to do that. Second, they will also come in form of impoverishing the people. They will make sure that people are so impoverished that they cannot even afford little money to buy credit or to buy data in order to.
Could you wrap up in 30 seconds?
Yeah, so in answer, what I'm saying is that I totally agree with the lady there that there is a shrink in the civic space, and it is orchestrated by the government of the Nigeria as a reason of failure in governance.
Okay, thank you so much. That means the government fails to do certain things, or they are not living up to the dividends of democracy, and citizens raise issues. The government try to stifle them. Hello?
Hello. Good evening. Good evening, crew.
Good evening. Your name and where you're calling us from?
My name is Sunday Emmanuel. So my contribution towards this topic is that even we did not give Buhari and the Minister Lai Mohammed the mandate. We will think that they are the Messiah, but we have seen that they have failed us. It's only God who will help this country, because they are only all the whole promises they promised this country, they failed in total, mostly in security.
Okay, thank you so much for your contribution. But I must also add that this is a platform given to some media houses, okay? We should not abuse it, especially for the media houses. When callers call in and make some inciting statements, it is the responsibility of the person handling the program to say no.
Yeah.
But that does not mean that when you have your facts,
Yes.
that anybody will shut you down.
Yeah.
Please go ahead on how it affects women.
So yes, I've spoken about how it affects women, the security issues, the laws are also stacked against women, and also that you need to also think about persons living with disability. That on the pecking order of society, the more we consider you weak, the less you're able to participate in the civic space. That we really have a problem with equity and equality in our society. And if you're poor, if you're female, if you're living with a disability, you really cannot participate in deciding the future of this country. And that is very, very problematic. If you're young, add young, and if you're very old, add that to it. These are the people that are very disenfranchised, but at the same time, that these are the very, very people that we need to listen to.
Good. Joke, you've been nodding.
Yeah, I'd like to add a few words to this conversation. I think that, the report by Global Rights is very timely. Now, there's been a progressive shift up there, and then you're going really down. I remember when Jonathan was president, people could talk and say many things, even though those things were very distasteful. But you didn't have people being arrested and thrown away. But right now, you see social media, people post stuff and then you don't even see them. Or they're tortured and all kinds of stuff. So really, you've seen the retrogression, and then it is becoming increasingly worrisome. Like if I enter maybe a public cabin, for instance, and people are talking, you hear somebody say, not talk too much, or before they go carry you. So even when we go out for vox pops, people say, no, I don't want to talk because I don't know what's going to happen to me. So the fear is very tangible, very palpable. People are really, really afraid. And the last time, I remember that people had this kind of fear in this country was when Abacha was the head of state, because I remember my parents then, even in the living room, they would talk with so much fear. But right now, it is happening again. So I think that we really need to say, no, we're not taking this, and something should be done.
Okay, because of our time in 1 minute, Abiodun, please, what would be your recommendation as a form of solution to the government?
Well, to the government, I would say that, look, you need citizens to be part of the process of development. Otherwise, we will not develop. You need the trust of citizens. People that you gag and do not allow to speak, you do not allow to decide their own future, can never trust you. If trust is not there, we will not win the war against insurgency. We will not win the war of becoming a great nation. And so you really need to think first about nation before you think about party or power.
But what of the citizens, whom some of them are in despair? What's your advice to that Nigerian out there?
Well, I would remind citizens of who we are. We're a great people. And I say it with all sense of responsibility, knowing the history of this country. That we've done great things as a people. Independence of not just Nigeria, but a large part of West Africa and even Southern Africa was about what we did as a people, not a government, as a people. We are Nigerians, and we will hold on to us.
Thank you for that. We are a great people. Dozie?
There'll be our place in the world ranking of press freedom. We ranked last year 120. It's not good out of 180. We need to change it.
It really is not good. We really need to change. Buhari, and all, that's President Buhari, and all the ministers, especially the Minister of Information, Lai Mohammed. We really need to change according to Dozie. And then we are a great people. And that's how we are wrapping it up on today's episode of Politics Extra. We sincerely appreciate the Executive Director of Global Rights, Abiodun Baiyewu, and to all those who called in and those who watched us via Facebook. Thanks also to Dozie and Stephanie. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.